What if I told you that an old, worn-out wheat penny sitting in your drawer could be worth thousands or even millions of dollars? In today's video, we're revealing the most valuable Lincoln and wheat pennies, including rare error coins and hidden treasures that look completely ordinary but have sold for life-changing money. Don't spend another penny until you watch this. First up, the 1957 D wheat penny is one of the final issues of the famous Lincoln Wheat Cent series, minted from 1909 to 1958. This coin was struck at the Denver Mint, which is identified by the small letter D located just below the date on the obverse, front of the coin. The obverse design shows the right-facing portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. The reverse features two curved wheat stalks along the left and right edges, surrounding the inscriptions 1 cent and United States of America, along with the motto E pluribus unum at the top. This wheat design gives the coin its popular name, wheat penny. The 1957 D penny was produced in extremely high numbers. The Denver Mint struck over 1.05 billion coins, making it one of the most common wheat cents ever made. Because of this large mintage, the coin is not rare in circulated grades. The composition of the coin is 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, with a total weight of 3.11 grams and a diameter of 19 millimeters. The edge is plain, not reeded. Since it was minted before 1982, it contains a high percentage of copper, which gives it intrinsic metal value and makes it slightly more desirable than modern zinc pennies. When discussing a bad condition 1957 D wheat penny, we are referring to coins that have been heavily circulated for many years. In lower grades, such as About Good, AG3, Good, VG8, most of the fine details are worn down. Lincoln's hair details may be almost completely flat, the cheek and jawline may blend into the field, and the lettering can appear weak but still readable. On the reverse, the wheat lines may be partially or fully worn smooth, especially at the tops of the stalks. The coin's surface often appears dark brown, blackish, or dull due to oxidation of copper over decades. Scratches, small rim dings, corrosion spots, or environmental damage are common on coins in poor condition. In terms of value, a heavily worn 1957 D wheat penny usually sells for only 2 to 10 cents, depending on local demand and copper prices. Some coin dealers may pay slightly more if copper prices are high, since the coin contains more copper than modern pennies. However, because the mintage was so large, collectors generally do not pay a premium for worn examples unless the coin has an unusual mint error. Coins in fine F12 or very fine VF20 condition may sell for 15 to 40 cents, while uncirculated red examples, graded MS65 red by professional grading services, can sell for $15 to $30 or sometimes higher, depending on eye appeal. It is important to understand that the famous 1957 double-die obverse variety was produced at the Philadelphia Mint and does not carry a D mint mark. Therefore, most 1957 D pennies do not have the dramatic doubling that collectors search for. However, minor die cracks, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, or clipped planchets can sometimes be found. These error coins may carry additional value if verified by professional grading companies. In heavily worn condition, it is usually difficult to see small error details without magnification. Even though a bad condition 1957 D wheat penny is common and inexpensive, it still holds historical and collectible importance. This coin represents American currency from the late 1950s. Just 2 years before the design changed in 1959 to the Lincoln Memorial reverse. Millions of Americans handled this coin in daily transactions, making it a small but meaningful piece of mid-20th century history. For many beginner collectors, the 1957 wheat penny is often one of the first coins added to a coin album. If you own one in poor condition, it is strongly recommended not to clean the coin, because cleaning can scratch the surface and reduce collector value. Instead, store it in a dry coin holder or small plastic flip to protect it from moisture and further corrosion. Even if its monetary value is low, its educational and historical value remains significant. The 1957 wheat penny connects collectors to the legacy of Abraham Lincoln, to American minting history, and to a time when copper cents were a standard part of everyday life. The 1942 wheat penny is an important World War II-era coin from the long-running Lincoln wheat cent series, minted between 1909 and 1958. This coin was produced at the Denver Mint, which is identified by the small letter D located directly below the date on the obverse front of the coin. The obverse design features the right-facing portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. The reverse displays the classic wheat ears design, with two wheat stalks curving along the left and right sides, framing the inscriptions 1 cent and United States of America, along with the motto E pluribus unum at the top. This design symbolizes agricultural strength and prosperity, which is why collectors commonly call it the wheat penny. The 1942 penny was minted during a critical period in American history, as the United States had just entered World War II. In 1942, pennies were still made from the traditional bronze composition of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, weighing 3.11 grams and measuring 19 millimeters in diameter. Later, in 1943, the mint would switch to steel cents to conserve copper for the war effort. Because 1942 was the last full year of regular bronze production before the famous 1943 steel cents, it holds special historical importance. The Denver Mint struck approximately 206 million 1942 pennies, making it a moderately common coin compared to earlier wheat cents. When we talk about a bad condition 1942 wheat penny, we are usually referring to coins that have been heavily circulated for decades. In low grades such as About Good AG3 or Good G4, Lincoln's hair details are mostly worn smooth, and parts of his coat and facial features blend into the field of the coin. The word Liberty may be weak but readable, and the date and mint mark should still be visible. On the reverse, the wheat stalks may have flattened tops, and the fine grain lines inside the wheat may be mostly gone. The coin's surface often appears dark brown, chocolate-colored, or even nearly black due to oxidation over time. Environmental damage, scratches, small rim bumps, and corrosion spots are common on heavily worn examples. In terms of value, a 1942 wheat penny in bad condition is generally worth between 5 and 20 cents, depending on the level of wear and the current copper market. Because the coin contains a high copper percentage, it often trades above face value simply for its metal content and collectible appeal. In slightly better circulated condition, fine to very fine, it may sell for 25 to 75 cents. Uncirculated examples in bright red, RD condition can reach $10 to $30 or more, especially in higher mint state grades certified by professional grading services. One interesting aspect of the 1942 date is that there are transitional error possibilities involving 1942 bronze and experimental compositions, though most of these are extremely rare and valuable. While the famous 1943 bronze cent is far more valuable, collectors still examine 1942 pennies carefully for mint errors such as off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, or repunched mint marks. If a 1942 penny shows unusual characteristics, it should be evaluated by a professional grading service for authentication. However, in most worn examples, no major error is present. Even in bad condition, the 1942 wheat penny represents an important moment in U.S. history. It circulated during wartime America, passing through the hands of citizens during a period of rationing, industrial expansion, and global conflict. Holding one today is like holding a small piece of World War II era history. For many collectors, wheat pennies from the early 1940s carry emotional and historical value beyond their market price. If you own a worn 1942D penny, avoid cleaning it, as cleaning can damage the surface and lower collector interest. Store it in a dry coin holder to prevent further corrosion. While a heavily circulated example may not be rare or worth large amounts of money, it remains a classic copper coin with strong historical significance and lasting popularity among coin collectors around the world. The 1960D Lincoln penny is an early issue of the Lincoln Memorial Cent series, which replaced the wheat reverse design in 1959. This coin was minted at the Denver Mint and carries a small D mint mark located just below the date on the obverse, front of the coin. The obverse features the right-facing portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, originally designed in 1909 by Victor David Brenner. The reverse displays the Lincoln Memorial Building in Washington, D.C., marking the first time a real historical building appeared on a regular U.S. coin. Inside the memorial, under magnification, you can even see a tiny statue of Lincoln seated between the columns. The 1960D penny is made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, weighing 3.11 grams with a diameter of 19 millimeters. Since it was produced before the 1982 composition change, it contains mostly copper, giving it intrinsic metal value and making it more desirable than modern zinc cents. The Denver Mint struck an enormous number of these coins in 1960, over 1.58 billion pieces, making it one of the highest mintage pennies of its time. Because of this large production, the 1960D penny is very common in circulated condition. An interesting and important feature of the 1960D Lincoln cent is that it comes in two major varieties, large date and small date. The small date variety is slightly scarcer and more desirable, especially in uncirculated grades. The difference can be seen in the shape of the 6 in the date, and the overall spacing and height of the numbers. In worn or bad condition, however, it can sometimes be difficult to distinguish between the two varieties because heavy circulation may flatten the numbers. When discussing a bad condition 1960D Lincoln penny, this typically refers to coins graded about good, AG3, good, G4, or very good. In these grades, Lincoln's hair details are mostly worn smooth, and his cheek and jawline may appear flat. The word Liberty may be weak but readable, and the date must still be visible for identification. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial details may be heavily worn, with the columns blending together and fine architectural lines disappearing. The coin's surface often appears dark brown or dull due to oxidation over many years. Scratches, rim nicks, staining, and environmental damage are common in heavily circulated examples. In terms of value, a 1960D penny in bad condition is usually worth 2 to 10 cents, depending on copper prices and collector demand. Since the mintage was extremely high, most circulated examples do not carry significant premium value. However, if you find a small date variety in high-grade uncirculated red condition, the value can increase significantly. Mint state red examples can sell for $10 to $40 or more, depending on grade and eye appeal. Certified high-grade coins with strong red color are especially popular among collectors building high-quality sets. Collectors also watch for errors such as doubled dies, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, die cracks, or clipped planchets. While major valuable errors are not common for the 1960D issue, minor mint errors can still bring additional interest and premium value. In worn condition, it is often harder to detect small error details without magnification. Historically, the 1960D Lincoln penny represents the early 1960s period in American history, a time of economic growth and social change. It circulated during the presidency of Dwight D. Eisenhower and later into the early years of John F. Kennedy's presidency. Billions of Americans used these pennies in everyday transactions, making them a familiar and iconic part of American pocket change. If you own a worn 1960 D penny, it is important not to clean it. Cleaning can damage the original surface and reduce any potential collector value. Store it in a dry environment, preferably in a coin holder or album. Even though a heavily circulated example may not be rare or extremely valuable, it remains a historic copper coin and an important part of the long-running Lincoln cent series that continues to be one of the most collected coin series in the world. Next up, the 1976 D Lincoln penny is part of the long-running Lincoln Memorial cent series, which was issued from 1959 to 2008. This coin was struck at the Denver Mint and carries a small D mint mark located just below the date on the obverse front of the coin. The obverse features the well-known right-facing portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, originally introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The reverse displays the Lincoln Memorial Building in Washington, D.C., with the inscriptions United States of America, 1 cent, and the motto E pluribus unum. Under magnification, the seated statue of Lincoln can be seen between the memorial columns, making it one of the most detailed small coin designs in U.S. history. The 1976 D penny was minted during America's bicentennial year, when the United States celebrated 200 years of independence. Although special bicentennial designs were used on the quarter, half-dollar, and dollar coins that year, the Lincoln cent retained its standard memorial design. The 1976 D penny was struck in extremely high numbers, with more than 4.2 billion coins produced, making it one of the most common Lincoln cents ever minted. Because of this massive production, the coin is widely available today in circulated condition. The composition of the 1976 D Lincoln penny is 95% copper and 5% zinc, with a weight of 3.11 grams and a diameter of 19 millimeters. Since it was minted before the 1982 transition to copper-plated zinc cents, it contains a high percentage of copper, giving it intrinsic metal value. The edge of the coin is plain, and its reddish-brown color when new gradually changes to brown over time due to oxidation. When discussing a bad condition 1976 D penny, this usually refers to coins graded about good, AG3, good, G4, or very good, VG8. In these grades, most of the fine details on Lincoln's hair and coat are worn smooth from circulation. His facial features may appear flat, and the fields of the coin can show scratches, nicks, and dull surfaces. The word Liberty and the date should still be readable, although they may be weak. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial columns may blend together, and the fine architectural details are often lost. The coin typically appears dark brown in color, sometimes with spotting or minor corrosion, depending on storage conditions. In terms of value, a heavily worn 1976 D penny generally sells for 2 to 5 cents, mainly because of its copper content rather than rarity. Since billions were minted, collectors do not usually pay a premium for circulated examples. In higher uncirculated grades with bright red color, mint state red, values can range from $5 to $20 or more, especially for coins graded MS65 or higher by professional grading services. Exceptional high-grade examples with strong luster and no marks may command higher prices among serious collectors. Collectors also look for mint errors on 1976 D pennies. Possible errors include off-center strikes, doubled dies, die cracks, clipped planchets, or wrong planchet errors. While most 1976 D pennies are normal, error coins can be worth significantly more depending on rarity and condition. However, in worn or bad condition, it can be difficult to identify minor error details without magnification. Historically, the 1976 D Lincoln penny represents the bicentennial era of the United States, a time of patriotic celebration and economic change. Although it does not carry a special commemorative design, it circulated widely during an important milestone in American history. Many people alive today likely use these pennies in daily transactions during the 1970s and 1980s. If you own a worn 1976 D penny, it is important not to clean it. Cleaning can scratch the surface and lower any collector value. Store the coin in a dry holder or album to prevent further oxidation. While a bad condition 1976 D Lincoln penny is not rare or highly valuable, it remains a classic copper coin and a lasting symbol of American currency history, connecting collectors to the bicentennial period and the enduring legacy of Abraham Lincoln. Please like and subscribe to my channel.